Welcome to the After Sunday podcast at First Baptist Cocoa, where we are a multi-generational family on mission. I am your host, Gaston Kinney. I am the Associate Pastor of Youth and Administration here at First Baptist. The purpose of this podcast is to dig deeper into subjects that did not make it into a Sunday morning service. The last time we were together, Pastor Dean shared his testimony and call to ministry. So today we want to continue to help our audience get to know our pastor. That being said, I am here with our senior pastor, Dr. Dean Williamson. So, Pastor Dean, share with us how the Lord called you here to First Baptist Cocoa.
Well, that's a great question, Pastor Gaston. I think that the first thing I have to say is that I came to First Baptist in a very unconventional way. So, to understand how unconventional it was, I'm first going to tell you what the process is, just in case maybe some of our listeners aren't familiar with how Baptist churches usually go about finding their pastors.
Okay.
So when a Southern Baptist church, or just any Baptist church, any independent church, because one of the things that is unique about Baptist churches, or other churches that are like this as well, is that each church is autonomous. So we make our own decisions. There's no bishop that comes in and says, Pastor Dean is hereby the next pastor of First Baptist Cocoa. So when there's a vacancy, the church doesn't have a pastor, they usually form a search committee of members within the congregation, and they usually pray and seek God's will, and sometimes they do a survey to see what the congregation really needs in the next pastor, and then they take resumes, they collect a bunch of resumes, they pray about the resumes and pull out the ones that they don't think will make it, and then there are certain the top ones, they'll bring them in for an interview. And oftentimes, that's the first time that the search committee has ever met these people. And then when they bring the pastor in, it's called preaching in view of a call. Mm-hmm. Is when the pastor comes in, they preach, and then right after at the end of the service, they vote on whether to affirm from the rest of the congregation that that's going to be their next pastor. And a lot of times, that's the first time that the congregation ever meets their pastor. Well, Kate and I, we just moved to Cocoa. Mm-hmm. I was teaching English as a second language to Chinese kids over the internet. Mm-hmm. I should try a little Chinese on you, Pastor Gaston.
Look, I'm not going to understand a word you're saying, but you can go for it.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something in Chinese.
Okay.
我说汉语说得很差. And that just means that I speak Chinese badly.
Okay.
But I can say it perfectly. So it makes Chinese people laugh.
That's funny.
But anyway, I was teaching Chinese over the internet, and I could live anywhere after seminary, and my wife is chronically ill. If you could, anybody who's listening to this podcast, I appreciate your prayers for my wife. And so she's been dealing with a chronic illness for a really long time. The warmer weather seemed to be a little bit better for her. We're originally from Massachusetts. So when we moved down to North Carolina for my last year of seminary, the warmer weather, the warmer part of the year was better. So we said, well, you know what? I'm just going to prioritize my wife's health and focus on being the best husband I can possibly be. And that's actually what led me here. So we were looking at the cheapest places to live in Florida by the beach on the East Coast. And so that narrowed it down to Daytona Beach and Cocoa area, and then also certain bad parts of Miami. And so then we took a vacation to Daytona Beach, and we realized, the places we can afford, very sketchy. It's not the scene that we really like. People drive on the beach there, and then the sand gets really hard, and I was just like, no, this is not what we're looking for. But we had actually gone on a cruise. The only cruise I've ever been on was when my grandma turned 80 years old. Mm-hmm. She paid for our whole family to go on a cruise, and it was out of Cape Canaveral. So we were familiar with this area, and it was actually during COVID. We sold our house in North Carolina, and then we were looking for a place to rent down here. We couldn't buy. So it's amazing to see God's hand in everything. Mm-hmm. Because if we were going to buy, we probably would have bought a condo on Cape Canaveral. So I just wanted my wife to be able to go to the beach. Her name's Kate, by the way, if you want to be praying for her. And I just thought, she can go to the beach every day. I can teach English from our little condo. It's all we need. But then we couldn't buy because I was self-employed, and you have to have a certain number of tax returns on file, be able to get a mortgage when you're self-employed. And so God's hand was in that.
Hmm.
And then we were virtually touring apartments because we couldn't really come down here with COVID and everything with a realtor. And we didn't really like the apartments that we were seeing beachside. But there was one right a couple streets up from the Central Library in Cocoa, just north of Cocoa Village. And we ended up renting there, and which is exactly 1 mile from First Baptist Church of Cocoa. So we were just like anybody else who moves to this area. A lot of people move to the area for a job or because they like the beach or for various reasons. And we were looking for a church, and we are trying to find it. Where should we go? And then my wife Kate said, "Well, why don't we go to First Baptist Cocoa? We can ride our tandem bicycle right through Cocoa Village. It'll be the cutest thing ever."
Yeah.
And so we rode our tandem bicycle to First Baptist Cocoa. We tied up our tandem bicycle to a palm tree outside of this church, and we came on in, and we just felt so welcomed and loved by the people at the church, and we just felt at home. There is a sense that you get when you come to church here that you're at home. This is where you're supposed to be, and that's the sense that Kate and I got. And so I just started singing in the choir. I started playing a little guitar along with the hymns that ruffled a couple feathers, but we've gotten over that. We play guitar all the time now here at First Baptist, and then but it wasn't until that summer that the church realized we had a great opportunity. The church, when I first got here, was down to about 40 or 50 people on Sundays, and it doesn't sound like that sounds like a decent sized church, but until you realize that our sanctuary seats like 600 or 700, so it started to feel pretty empty, and everyone was older. Like Kate and I were really we were the young people, so we really wanted to start a youth ministry as a church, and so the church there was no money in the budget to start a youth ministry or to hire a youth pastor. But the church said, we'll step out in faith and we'll give more to make sure that we can have a youth pastor who can start a youth ministry, and we don't have any youth. We even had a church member who came back from a trip in the summer, and I'd been hired. And he said, well, why do we hire a youth pastor? We don't have any youth. But it's one of those things where sometimes you just got to step out in faith. And maybe you don't have any youth at your church because you don't have a youth pastor.
Yeah.
So that ministry, by the grace of God, took off. We had 8 or 10. I think we had 8 the very first night, and started with some basketball nights in the CAC. We're so blessed with our facility here at First Baptist. And then we kind of changed it more to youth group, made more of an emphasis on, started a youth band, started more emphasis on worship and Bible study and doing things other than basketball as we started that summer, but then and then that fall. But a few months later, Pastor Rich was the senior pastor here, and he took me down to Pub Americana in Cocoa Village. You probably know where I'm talking about.
I don't think I've been
there. I need to take you down there sometime.
Yeah, I don't think I've been there.
Well, hopefully when I take you down there, it's not going to end like this.
Yeah.
Because Pastor Rich took me down there, and he was acting weird the whole time. Kate and I were like, oh, he's kind of acting weird. We're just eating. And then all of a sudden he pushes his meal aside at the end and says, well, taking a position at another, I'm taking another position, and I want to recommend you to be the next, the interim pastor at First Baptist.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
I wasn't expecting that.
No,
that was 3 months in.
I wouldn't either. That's crazy.
But I think that was something that the Lord wanted us to do. And so my wife and I, we have a little flair for the dramatic. We actually, we got my resume together, and we went to the altar here at First Baptist. Nobody was around. Mm-hmm. And together we hit send on sending my resume in to the search committee. So I was the interim pastor, so I started preaching through Ephesians to the church on Sunday mornings, and the church got to know me. I got to know the church, and we just found that it was a good fit. And so the search committee took resumes from all over the country and did their due diligence, but then they felt like the Lord was leading them to hire me as the next senior pastor at First Baptist. So very unusual that your senior pastor just rides his tandem bike and joins your church.
Yep.
But God works in mysterious ways. And we've seen the church grow so much. And for a long time, I was doing senior pastor and continuing to run the Thursday night youth ministry that you're now in charge of.
Yeah.
And so I'm very thankful that the Lord has grown our church. We have like about 200 on Sundays and people of all ages, which is really exciting. That's our vision of all generations worshiping God together in one service. But I don't know if you're prepared for this, Pastor Gaston, but I thought I would turn the tables a little bit. And I think that you came to First Baptist in a somewhat unconventional way. So how did you get to First Baptist?
Yeah, that's a great question. Very, very similar to yours in the way of God works in mysterious ways. So originally, me and my wife, we got married in New Orleans. And so we were looking to get out of New Orleans, just felt the Lord calling us away from the seminary. And, we're praying about it, trying to figure out where he wanted us to go. And so my wife's mom, so my mother-in-law, she sells insurance for Geico, like has her own Geico office. And so one of the Sunday school teachers at First Baptist was looking to get car insurance. And so he met with her and they got to talking about me and also you, and just looking for, you were looking for help to take over the youth ministry.
I must have seemed really desperate.
Well, it wasn't even really, I don't even know if you were actually like asking around for help, but
Stan knew I needed help.
Yeah, Stan knew. He was like, look, running both ministries at the same time is a lot, and so he needs help. And so we got to talking. I talked with Stan, and then Cassie and I came and visited her mom's family here, and they actually live in Malabar. And so when we came and visited them during Christmas, and me and you actually met at what was that place we met at? It's the Thai place.
Tai Tai.
Yeah, Tai Tai. We met there. So I've been there. I remember that
that's
place.
Right across the street from Pub Americana.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know where it's at, but I haven't been there. But anyways, so we got to talking. You gave me a tour of the church, and we kind of went from there. We went back home, and we moved.
Here's an important thing.
Oh, go ahead.
We basically were offering you almost nothing to come here.
Yeah.
And you were willing to come for basically nothing, just pennies.
Yeah.
And so that spoke volumes to me that you just wanted to minister. You wanted to shepherd and pastor and preach and teach.
Yeah.
And so that really showed your heart.
Yeah.
All I was trying to sell you on, I wasn't like, oh, this is the great package we can offer you at First Baptist.
Yeah,
it was,
no.
Well, we've got a whole bunch of youth coming on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
And we've got a great facility, and I see a great potential for reaching people for the gospel.
Yeah.
And that was something that interested you.
Yeah, it was. From my senior year, I felt the Lord calling me into youth ministry and ministry as a whole. And so I've known since then that that's what I want to do, no matter what the package is, so to speak, or anything like that. I want to preach the gospel to right now to students. And so I'm just so thankful to be here. But that's how I got here.
Well, you want me to tell you the real story of how you got here?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
I prayed that the Lord would bring us a man who, first of all, I asked for somebody who had completed Bible college,
mm-hmm.
and you'd just wrap that up.
Yep.
Someone who was finishing their seminary online.
Yep.
You're doing that.
Yep.
And someone who had another reason for being in the area besides our church, because I knew we weren't offering much.
Yep.
And you have family in the area.
Yep.
And then God answered my prayers.
Yeah.
So I want you to know, Pastor Gaston, you are such an answer to prayer, and really excited about the work that God's doing through you to reach the students and really disciple them to know the Lord. And preaching verse by verse through Mark on Thursday nights to the students, I know is really building up their faith. So
yeah,
so thankful to have you.
Yeah, well, I'm thankful to be here. So thank you. I really appreciate that. But that is all we have today for the After Sunday podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any topics that you would like for us to talk about, please comment on this video. But until next time, we pray that the Lord would give you a spirit of wisdom and of revelation and the knowledge of Him.